I think one of the biggest gaps in teams today is not talent or effort. It's the feeling of being truly integrated. Because sometimes you can have people working together, but it feels like they're still working separately.
Yeah, and that usually shows up in small ways, like misalignments, repeated questions, or a lack of ownership, which are often signs that a team is not fully connected.
Communication can be happening, you're still doing your tasks, meetings are still being done, but, still something feels quite off. And people don't feel like they're part of the system.
Yeah, and so today we are talking about what actually makes the team feel integrated, especially in setups where teams are remote or offshore. Yeah. So hello, welcome to business. Hello, Penny.
Hello, Francis. How's it going? Is there still a heat
Things
wave in your
in my
area
part
of
of
the
the
world?
world, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a heat wave. It was an awful 29 degrees.
How
I know.
awful.
I know. No, it's funny because I should have been laughing
Mm,
at the people suffering uh during the heat wave. It's just, see, I get it why it's a heat wave here, because it's a country
mm.
that's not built for the heat. Like
Yeah, yeah.
in the Pinas, houses are built for heat.
AC,
Like
malls.
windows,
There,
airways.
there are no windows there. What do you mean?
No, no, the way windows are built, because windows here are like double sealed. So as soon
Oh.
as they're closed, they're retaining heat, right? And when they're open, the way this is built for insulation and not built for heat, because the air conditioning
Mm-hmm.
isn't a thing, fans aren't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you go
Is this the
out
first time you've sweat since you moved?
this year, yes. This year, yes. But yeah, you go out, it's everything's open and al fresco,
Mm.
and there's a building that's air conditioned. Di ba, in Pinas, even like your local sari-sari store is could be air conditioned, or coffee shops are air conditioned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It
It's,
is.
it's not the yeah, it's
Everything's air
not the
conditioned.
case. Yeah, so
But like,
even if you go out, you know that maybe in 10, 20, 30 minutes, you'll either be in an air conditioned bus, uh MRT, or in
mhm.
another place that's air conditioned. Like cars here aren't air conditioned.
Even cars aren't air conditioned. Even
Yeah,
cars?
they roll down their
Oh, they
windows.
have heaters, right?
Yeah, they roll down their windows. I don't think they actually don't have maybe they do. It's just, it's not the thing. If it's hot, you roll
Mm-hmm.
down your
See.
windows.
Oh,
Yeah, if that makes sense.
okay.
But yeah. Things over there, shouldn't it be cooler by now?
It's been raining, if that's what you mean. It's been sunny, then rain. You
Yes.
know how it is here. Like it's either sunny or rainy. It's the rainy season. I went to the Amsterdam, the Chamber of Commerce event yesterday, and before
Uh-huh.
I stepped out of the house, it was raining really, really hard, and I was like, should I go? I was
Yeah.
whining. I don't want to go in this rain. Sometimes that happens because I am I guess, an ambivert. So the introvert side of me still kind of says like, I still need to like
Yeah.
see people. But then it was a good,
Like you have.
it was a good event because it was about cybersecurity.
Oh, that's
So I
nice.
learned a few things about, things that we could also be doing. But
Like you have to
yeah.
have a good cry. You have to have a good cry before you force yourself to get out.
Yeah, I have to what do you call this? Talk myself up, psych myself up for it.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the topic that we're talking about today is making
Feeling
teams
connected.
feeling connected.
You know how we're always giving a backstory of where we are in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like when personally, when the two of us are talking, we're always giving like backstories, like, you'll have to carry me today because I'm not feeling all that well, or or that I had a very long day, or the traffic was too much, and that's why I'm in this state. You know how we tend to
Yeah.
do that.
Yes.
I was thinking about that regarding our topic, because a lot of times when we communicate with our teams, you either expect them to be in a professional setting, leave your
Mm-hmm.
baggage behind, and it's one aspect of what we're trying to talk about. I suppose, in a way, when I talk about staying connected with clients, like, say for example, when it was just me working for myself, I strive to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from, or why I talk this way, or why I think we should communicate more often, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like when you say, when a client is being tough or snippy, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I would go like, "Hi, is everything going well with you today?" I'm not trying to get them to open up, but oftentimes they do, and I feel like that creates a sense of I can talk to this person, or I don't have to keep my distance with this person, or I can share with this person more. But when in my case, it's really more along the lines of, I just wanted to understand if this person's current persona is due to, like, is it a work thing, or is something personal going on, and that's why they're
Yeah.
being like this at work. And do you tend to do that, or does that show up in, in little aspects, like how do you deal with trying to stay connected? Like, I feel like there's two sides to this, because we talk about our outsourcing, um our outsourcing business, in terms of how we
Mm-hmm.
train our people to stay connected with their clients, but how do you do it personally?
Well, personally, it really depends. So most of the time, I think, our producer right now kind of understands that there are going to be times where I'm straight to the point. Actually, I'm more straight to the point than I was in my earlier years. But then I also understand, and I think the people that I talk to, or our teams, also understand that they can go to me when they need to explain what's happening with them. There have been certain instances where, like, out of the blue, I'll get a call or a text. This has happened
Uh-huh.
a couple of that's not work related, but it does give me a glimpse of what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that comes with also, being open about these conversations. You might not have, like, to give them the hour for it, because of course calendars back, but just letting everyone know that they can communicate with you and they can open up with you. I think that's part of the communication side, the connection side, that even though it's not part of work but can affect your work, then go ahead and tell me. Because I think I've said this before a couple of times, where I'd rather know than not know, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather know that you're going through something than not know, and then we get into problems with the performance, with your performance. So I think that's part of the connection and communication. Is not only is it talking about the work side of things, but also being very aware and sensitive about how people have their own lives as well, apart aside from work, and that being open into kind of hearing about their personal stuff as well.
Yeah. I see. I 100% understand that. Like, and this is before we truly address that, whether you're working for yourself or
Mm-hmm.
personally, and even when people say that you leave baggages out the door, and when you're at work, you're 100% at work, like you're only supposed to talk about at work. I think that's a little bit silly, in terms of,
Yeah, I think you
you're
can't
not.
really compartmentalize fully.
Yes. Yeah. In some ways you can. You bring your work self in. But
Mm-hmm.
your work self is also your personal self, right? You bring yourself regardless of your setting, right? Maybe if you're working in a bank, you can't do baby talks when you're talking to a client, like, oh, you do the, maybe not.
How can you
Yeah,
do
I
that
don't know.
again? Like, come
No.
on, do it.
So, but no, but at the end of the day, you bring yourself. Like
Yes.
if you had a good morning, you bring that to work. When you had a crappy morning or had a
Mm-hmm.
fight, a domestic problems at home, even if you don't show it, it affects you, right? It
Yes.
affects you in certain ways. So, having said that, what's my point?
No, I
No,
think like, so
yeah,
when we talk about teams feeling truly integrated, we don't just talk about just the work side of things. I think there's
yes,
something to
thank
be
you.
said about having rapport within the team, having that connection with the team so that they do feel like they belong. I think integrated is kind of a big word for it. I think it's more of feeling of belongingness. It's more
Didn't you
of
just,
a word that
yeah,
I like more. But yeah, communication is part of it, being open, and because these are human beings, right? It's not like,
yes,
turn it off
yeah, and then
when you
turn it
come to
on
work.
again.
Yeah,
No,
it's
you're
not
you're
like that.
100% correct. So and that's why I think, um in the human aspects of our work, I know taking spending 10 minutes asking about how your day was, that's not necessary. It's not necessarily an aspect of work, but
Mm,
think of it as, revving up your engine and making sure that you're both on the same page, on the same
yes.
foot, or just trying to vibe with each other, or trying to share some energy with each other, because it
Mm,
really does. I mean, you can go to and have something very, very clinical. Like when you go to City Hall and ask for a permit and everybody's just disconnected. Oh, for this form, go to that form. But you'll realize how different that is when you go to a different setting. Like, say, for example, a
yeah.
coffee shop. They're still the same business. They could have just said, get your coffee, right? But no,
Yeah.
they go, hi, can I get your order? How was your day? Did you do it again? Do you like extra sugar? And it just makes the interaction feel so much more like
Yeah.
yeah.
The
Like, I'm not
how you show
crystals.
up, like how you show up is so different when you're when you feel like you're integrated with the team or when you belong to
Yeah.
the team. Like
When you,
there's a pep in your step. Is that the right
there,
idiom? There's a
no,
pep
no,
in
no.
your step. Mm.
There's that's 100% correct. And I'm gonna say this again. I'm not crystals and zodiac person. I do believe that people understand when energy is being shared amongst them, and when people are
Mm-hmm.
being closed off about it as well, right? Clipped sentences, blah blah blah. And then we take that preference over you being able to say, like, can I work with this person? Because the connection is there, the trust is there, that you're more able to share. You take the time to, if there's extra work needed to be done, you feel happier to do that for that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
like when your favorite person at payroll asks you for something, you do it because, not,
Not because
you
they
know
handle your payroll.
not because they handle the payroll, but because, when you know that you have problems, you can come to that person. They take the time
Yeah.
to explain. It makes you want to do things for them as well, right? Now,
True.
why am I taking so long to sort of build on that topic? Because I feel like in the professional setting, when you're now dealing with, and when there's a contract involved between, client and provider, I still think that it follows the same rule, maybe not necessarily um the same vibe. But
Mm-hmm.
when you now deal with the client, you fulfill the contractual side, right? You fulfill the
Mm-hmm.
contractual side and say, here's priorities, here's expectations, here's direction, and then, okay, so, you know, how how do we do this? Like, what makes you feel there's a touchy feely side of things that I don't think a lot of outsourcing agencies tend to, do you think they tend to take it very, very clinical because they think that's how they're going to be taken seriously, which I feel
For
like hasn't never been our approach.
Yeah, it
I mean,
hasn't.
we of course,
It's never been our approach, but I do get what you mean about maybe that's the way, to be taken seriously is to be just all about business. And maybe it's also a cultural thing because if you've been working with certain cultures who are also very straightforward and they're very blunt, very just it's just no BS, right? Sometimes you do
I'm
kind of
happy to point
mimic
out those
how
cultures.
you kind of mimic how they attack things or how they would go about things, and sometimes you don't notice it, but your type of communication, your style of communication comes from being a little touchy feely to just being very clinical and very sterilized. But I think part of it is also like what we see out there, right? I mean, right now there's just a lot of information that does kind of contradict that. But in the previous years, when there was not a
Yes.
lot of information out there, we always think about client and vendor type of relationship, or even boss and employee type of relationship, where the boss is
Yes.
always like, I'm right, this is what you do what I say, and things like that. And never, like, if you show them a little bit of weakness, or if you show them a little bit of vulnerability,
They'll
it's a
take
point against you.
advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yes, also
Yeah.
being taken advantage of. But it's very different nowadays, because now we have a lot more, I guess, speakers out there, a lot more people
Uh,
out there, saying what we've also been saying, which is having
the
that other side of it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the authoritarian boss has, I think, long been put to ground because there are different types of leaders nowadays. None of them the best, but simply understanding what type of leadership you might fall under
Mm-hmm.
helps you understand how to work that relationship, and showing the type of humanity that has sort of permeated working relationships now. I mean, it used to be that the boss knows everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's turned into servant leadership. It's turned into, I hire people who I know are much better than me. And
Mm-hmm.
that differentiates the relationship where you have, a strong man leader.
Mm-hmm.
There's a type of being held under somebody's thumb that I can insist that I know better, but I won't, because that threatens the strongman leader. Wherein, when you're explicitly hired because you know that you know better
Mm-hmm.
than the leader, that in a way empowers you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel in many ways, we strive to sort of do the same thing from our relationship. Say for example, your client, I'm outsourced. When we set off our journey, it's better to ask, like, how do you want to run this? Because you want me to take the reins in terms of hiring, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it just frustrates us when they say no, we want to be involved in hiring, and then they're all, I feel like I need to interview more, when we know that there's already super qualified
Yes.
candidates, that you just take the damn candidate. And sometimes the problem is when you do hire and then it doesn't work, and then we're like, as opposed to, I mean, we know how to do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's never a bad thing. But have we worked our way into relationships where we say, uh you need one person, you need me to hire one, do you want to be involved? And the client goes, no, no, you know how to do your thing, you know how to choose the right person. And that, for me, that's like the best kind of relationship, like, because we're free to do what we need to
Yes.
do, where we understand what needs to be done. And when we say, uh I think we need X, and they say, okay, let's do that. And it's not always easy to be able to maintain that kind of relationship, or even to establish that kind of relationship, because
Mm-hmm.
in a way it's
It
letting go
takes
of
time.
control. But
Yeah.
yeah, in a way it's letting go of control. That, while it's never a bad thing, you sometimes you have to tell people to, uh you know what we insist is, we know what we're doing, we're ready to be accountable to this,
Mm-hmm.
for this, and I feel like if you let us do it, um we'll have a smoother relationship, and I'll get to say I told you so, without you know without without embarrassing you. While, although, in in a way, not having that conversation straight away
Mm-hmm.
is where the frustration comes from, right? Being held at arm's length, not being able to do what we think can be done best. Don't you feel like, that conversation where it goes, how does it go in English? When you go, bala sila yun, ganun gusto nilang gawin eh. Let them deal with the consequences. But don't you notice that when the relationship starts to take that kind of turn, that you're, instead of you wanting to do more, wanting to do
Mm-hmm.
better, but because you're being held at arm's length,
Yeah.
you kind of just, now you don't want to, like it.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that the relationship is soured, but
It's just
you know
like there comes a point where you don't want to keep pushing back, right?
exactly.
Because you're like they're not gonna listen to you anyway. So
Yep. And you have ideas and then you want to pitch them, but no, it's my idea. It's my way or the highway. Now, put that in context with, so that's us
mhm,
from a leadership role. But working in teams, like say for example, you're an outsourced team. Sometimes it's not
mhm,
just from the leadership aspect, from the operations aspect. So there's a problem when you have like a super proactive team, that when you don't have the right expectations, or don't establish where the line is, where the
mhm,
expectations are, that can also be a problem. And I maintain that, I always maintain that, how people say, oh, raise the bar or perform better. That also becomes a problem, not just for you but for the client as well. Say for example, if the KPI is sales and you're supposed to hit, say, 100 sales in a month, right? It has been determined that 100 sales a month is what's necessary. I don't know if we're going to go in any direction with this, but one of the things that I keep saying, like in terms of integration, how people will always say, push the team to do better. Like if it's 100 sales, let's make it 150.
mhm,
Let's make it 150. But either the goal is, so we know that if you miss the stars, you'll hit the lamppost anyway. But if you don't communicate that the actual sales is 100, and people are always pushing, that they get 120, 110, 105, 130 sometimes sales in a month. But you tell them, oh, you didn't reach 150. That means you will have to try harder next month, knowing full well that you're already hitting the goals. Like, what is it actually doing to your team when month over month they feel like they're trying their hardest, but they're never hitting the goal, when in fact they've been hitting the goal month over month? Does that make sense?
yeah,
What does it mean for their morale? What does it mean for their morale to try and push harder? Every time they feel like, oh, I'm failing again, or I might lose my job, you know it might work for a while because they keep pushing. But if you don't get that sense of, yeah, guys, you did it, it's always been, oh, you didn't hit it this month, try again next month. That, guys might be looking for a new. I'm not making sense, am I?
no, no, no. I
Because
am trying to think of
I've been
a
in a place
specific
like that.
situation. Yeah, yeah. So that's the reason why I kind of like I was thinking like what because I think we have been in this kind of situation where it's very top down. It's very do what I say, and then you're not given some leeway into actually um, thinking what do you call it? Thinking outside of what they're saying, and so you know
Or being asked for your ideas.
yeah, being asked for your ideas, that it kind of does like, okay, I'm already doing what you're saying, but it's not exactly working for me. I do think that there are different ways, always different ways of going about things, and sometimes your way is
Mm-hmm.
always might be great for some, but for some styles of working might not be great for them. But that doesn't necessarily mean, as you said earlier, that if we say, people for leaders or employees to be proactive, is that sorry, I'm trying to remember what I
No, go
said.
on. Gather your
No,
thoughts. I feel like there's a lot to be said here.
yeah, yeah. No, like what you said earlier about being like proactiveness, about there is still some line to be drawn, but giving your people the space to speak out and say what they think can happen or could happen or what could be better also involves involving them, right, in that
Yes.
conversation, opening up that conversation of, hey, we're doing this because XYZ, this is the goal, this is the problem, this is the challenge. Here's what we think is happening because XYZ. What do you think? There's something to be said about opening that question or that challenge to your
Mm.
people because it does give them, I think, not just buy in, yes, buy in about what is going to be done moving forward because you have thought through it with them, but also a little bit more, I guess, I'm trying to think of another idiom, but pep in their step again. Because hey, I've been part of the brainstorming. They ask for opinion. I'm the one doing this day in and day out, and this is what I think is also going to happen. What
It's
I
the
will, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's the I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel valued. It's not
Yeah.
always, a lot in many ways. Financial rewards aren't just that. Like when you feel like, oh, we're paying you, we should be getting,
Mm.
a lot out of you. While true, isn't always what motivates people. And sometimes you wonder why people in high paying jobs suddenly just quit and become potato farmers. Um,
Okay.
what?
I don't know where you got that from, but okay.
Because I feel like I've seen a lot of people who are like, when they're trying to climb up the ladder and then they
Hmm.
find out some people actually have climbed the ladder and I'm like, no, it's not for me. But not that part is neither here nor there. What I guess what I'm saying is being able to share your ideas. It's not just because some people don't have ideas and some people might not have ideas to
No,
share.
no,
That doesn't.
I laughed because what do you mean they don't have ideas? But then again, yeah,
Some
some
people
people
don't.
don't.
Some people don't
Yeah,
necessarily
some people don't,
have
or maybe
ideas
not
or would like to
the
share.
knowledge yet or the experience
No,
yet to have
no, that's not
ideas.
true. There's simply some people who just you know you know like in a relationship, you walk into an empty room, a wife sees. Oh, we could put a vanity there. Yeah, yeah. But what do you think? He was like,
The
I don't care. Just
vision, is
yeah,
that the
there's
truth?
the vision,
Yeah.
and then there's stuff to share. He just says, I just need a couch, or tell me what to buy, what to bring, where to put. And that's an okay relationship. Like in a
Yeah.
team, you don't always have to force people to say, give us your ideas, because some people don't have ideas, but that doesn't make them any less good as a
Yeah.
worker.
True. Very
Okay.
true.
Yeah, so some people know how to do attack, and they know how to attack. But they need people to know where to, where point, and then they will. It still doesn't mean like, I want to hear you out, like, just the part that you say, do you have any ideas, and say, nope, I'm good. But when they do well, they get the pat on the shoulder. They still feel the value
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
we're
I think
looking for, right?
it's not the idea that we're trying like people to have ideas or suggestions right away, but also like after there's a commitment or if there's a decision that was made and everyone's committed to actually doing it, is to actually get that commitment. Like this
Yeah.
agent, if even if they don't have like any ideas, they're okay with everything that was said, that was presented by leadership or even presented
Uh-huh.
by peers, that they're okay. There's a decision that was made, we're going to go ahead and go through this action plan, and they will go through the action plan without any pushback anymore. I think
Yeah.
the involvement there is more of a yes, let's do this, rather than hey, this is
Yes.
my idea. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's the let's do this. And to be fair, good leadership knows what to pick up on, even, and not, put it this way. Even though I said that, some people don't have ideas and they don't know what to share, it doesn't mean that they don't have insight
Yes.
into a process. Now, good leadership, a good relationship between client and will take the time to say, do you say that will you say that this process works well? Like even though it's like pulling teeth and having to get that
Mm.
information out, like when you talk to your team and say, "Hi guys, just just I'm just checking to see how do you think this process is working for you." When they say, "Yeah, it's okay," and then it's not just the okay, it's the do you feel that it makes your work easier? And then what would you say would make it even better? Anything,
The feedback.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and they're able to glean information out of their reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because sometimes even a lack of reaction is in fact a reaction. Like, would you feel better if we added something, an extra layer here or as a feedback, or what do you think? And that, any suggestion that comes out after that, and if they take that feedback and action on it, is actually a great relationship. Because again, some people will always be very very vocal about their ideas and their ideas for change. Actually, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be very careful about the people who are most vocal with their suggestions, because usually
Yeah.
those are the ones that are not as worthy as the actual valuable suggestions. Just be careful with the people who are always like, I think we should have free coffee.
Oh, you
you know
know what I would be more wary of are people who kind of say, "I talked with everyone, and everyone said," because this happened to us several times where someone
and they
says
go,
that, and then we talk to
who?
everyone, and it was like it was
Like,
only there.
who exactly? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, the people who weaponize the royal we, like, we as a team feel like we should be like, okay, who? Like, does everybody feel the same way? Really? Raise your hands right now. You know, eh,
yeah. The like
and it's
leadership
funny
does
because,
come with a go ahead.
yeah, no, no, no. I know where you're going with. Go.
So as leaders, you do have to kind of be intuitive that way. Figure out, okay, are they being silent just because they don't have anything to say anymore, or are they being silent just because there's so many voices that are being heard right now? They're louder voices than them, and so you do have to be intuitive and see, okay, and maybe even talk to that person on the side and ask them what's happening.
No, yeah, you're 100% correct. While feedback should always be heard, you kind of always have to be wary of bad faith actors as well. But what does this mean? Just because I feel like we're going a lot
Yeah.
into the human aspect of it, but what does it mean in terms of relationships? Because I go back to being able to share and communicate. So in terms of uh, say for example, between client and team, being able to set proper expectations are good. Being able to talk about those responsibilities and expectations are good. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to understand uh, who is the top decision maker, who's the point of contact, who makes the decisions, are always clear. And if they're clearly defined, there's no confusion on who, what, when, where, who's to pick up the slack, right? When it comes to being aligned across teams, communication is vital, but also knowing how to communicate. Like, if I have a concern about you, for example, do I raise a ticket, or do I send an email, or do I send a Teams chat? That knowing how to do that is vital as well, because
Mm-hmm.
put it this way, if you have, say for example, a department who would refuse, and I don't mind that people uphold this because it's just for efficiency's sake. You know how when you talk to IT, it's like, "Hi, can you do this? Like, my computer died. Can you help me?"
Yeah, my computer
And
died.
yeah, yeah,
I
like,
don't know what to do.
"Steven, yeah, my laptop died. How can I?" And they go, "Send the ticket." Yeah, but I'm already talking to ya.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what you were saying, what you were saying about efficiency's sake is to actually do send a ticket because
Yeah, and you do have to send the ticket. It's not because IT is being bratty about upholding process.
mm,
It's also for his protection and yours. Because, say for example, what you did was to send the Teams message, for example,
mm,
and the protocol is send the ticket. He said, "Hi, my laptop died. Help!" Right, and he never replied to the Teams message. That's not on him.
Yeah.
You might have, you know, you're at this point, you're now bearing a grudge. IT never helped me.
But you're out of process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. But and now you're bearing ill will, and that's that's a very in your face example.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But to be honest, a lot of that happens as well. Like, for example, raising escalations, putting out concerns, which is all well and good. But if
Mm-hmm.
there's a defined process where you should be doing that, follow the defined process. Like, if the process was don't talk about it in the water cooler, put it in a piece of paper and put it anonymously in your boss's door. Follow the process.
Yeah.
So, and that's even more important when it comes to, like, when you're not face to face and in person, because a lot of it can be lost in the ether, right? If you sent an email to an inbox that isn't monitored, then your grievance would have been unheard, for
Yeah.
example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, um, and that goes in terms of workflow. Like, that's literally, actually, that what we're talking about is workflow, right? But say, when you silo it in different aspects, like, that's administrative workflow. But in your actual workflow, when you're dealing with a different team, say for example, engineers and support, and you say, if I need to talk to engineering, what are the things that I need to know? Like, for example, if I send a request to engineering and they work in sprints, meaning every other week, right? Every other week. If I send a request now and then I was fully expecting a reply the next day, then that would be a problem as well, because we know that unless the building is on fire, they're not going to reply for the next 4 days at least. So, you know, understanding how processes work, they literally reduce confusion. They reduce frictions at work. So, yeah. Anything else to add?
No, I absolutely agree about what you mean about knowing the process and knowing the right place to communicate whatever grievances you have, or feedback or thoughts that you have, and also finding the right person to send it to, not gossip within within the team, but just the right process to do that, because there is such a thing, because your bosses are going to have meetings about the sometimes back to back meetings, and maybe that Slack message will not be noticed right away, but knowing whether it's maybe this is more of an email more of an email topic rather than a Slack conversation, then go ahead and do that. But I do think sometimes, this type of, I guess, process, sometimes some people don't actually know where's the right way, or where's the right channel to communicate what they need to communicate. We have had accounts where this was really like very clear, like for example, for this one, go ahead and Slack me. For this one, because it's urgent, you can go ahead and call me on my cell, like,
Mm.
right. But there are also some accounts where it's like, and you kind of learn along the way about whether you send an email about it or Slack it.
Yeah.
um
You just naturally figure out, which is a problem. But
yeah,
for other people, like, if you might have figured it out, but other people certainly would have. Or
yeah.
actually, when you go, hi, uh, Department X never responds. They're so bitchy, blah blah. No, 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 no. Actually, what you do is you send it here, and then
Yeah.
and then now you sound like a problem solver because you know how to reach out to them. When really, everybody should have known how the process was.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as teams feeling integrated, we did talk about the right way to communicate, the right way to, well, not the right way, but one of the ways to show up as a leader with your team to
Yes.
make everyone feel integrated, and even as clients, right? We can do these with the people that we partner with, our vendors or service providers. We can have that conversation of not just the work, but also the other side of it, maybe in varying degrees or varying frequency. But we
I think
do
it
need to
helped
have
me.
those, to have that
Oh,
connection.
yeah.
Um,
No, I think it helped me. Like, in the in the number in the limited times that we had to take on like a partner or
Mm.
I wouldn't say that we ourselves outsource. Like say for example, when we hired, for various things, like for the Christmas party, for example, when we hired a company to do that, I feel like knowing how we need to deal with our clients, w- at least we knew how to act as clients. If that make Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Like you don't give too many demands. Listen to their strength and their expertise. Try, don't. Although what I have been doing, which I don't think is necessary, like I know how to call out bullshit when I see it.
But anyway, so I think that is it for today's episode. But we do want to know what's your take on this. How do you engage with your team to make them feel like they belong or that they're integrated, especially in remote environments? So we're very much
Yes.
interested in learning what you think about this. What's your take? Please comment down below.
Yeah, share your strategies and what you think is my best strategy to improve collaboration. We'd love to hear it, and we'd love to share it with other people as well. So yeah, that's probably it for today's episode of Business. Yeah,
Yes, yes, I
but the
think that is it.
conversation doesn't end there.
Yeah, let's keep the buzz going. Please follow Virtua on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And if you think someone from your team or your company will value or will be able to get some insights from this episode, please also do share this with them.
Yeah, and remember, you can find Business on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and TikTok, so you can listen anytime, anywhere. It's just me and Penny. And until then, we'll have our next episode.
Until next time, keep innovating, keep making moves. See you in the next episode.
See you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.